desegregation versus integration, and which of those two were really the aim of the movement, whether it was actually to have the right to move about, to attend, to congregate, to be educated wherever one would have chosen appropriate or deemed appropriate, or the question of rather that the entire black community just felt propelled to integrate.
Well, I think when it started out, integration was the theme. I think we moved away from that to desegregation. The 1954 decision, Brown versus Board of Education.
You need to mention that's what you did your thesis on.
Yeah, my dissertation was on Thurgood Marshall's arguments before the Supreme Court in Brown versus Board of Education. And the end of that case, the statement was that to separate people because of race is to do irreparable harm to them. So I think in the beginning it was integration. I think now we have moved to the point where we say we want to desegregate everything, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to all be together. We want that right. We want to be recognized as equals. And I think when you start a movement, you start with one idea in mind, and it gradually evolves into something that might be a little different. But I think basically the whole thing is that we don't necessarily feel that we have to be with the other race to have any kind of feeling of who we are. But to deny us that is to deny our humanity, and as to say that we are less than who we are. So I think it's sort of a combination of the two.
And I would think, too, that to some extent one of the unfortunate consequences of the whole desegregation movement would be to suggest that unless you do go to school with members of another race, that somehow you're being shortchanged. And when I think in terms of high schools like Pearl High School years ago, when my daughter was there and had some of the best teachers that taught in this city, regardless of who they were or where they were, the advantage that I see in sitting in a class with others would be that you do realize that whatever problems they are, they're not racial. In other words, there were some kids who were better students than I was, but I was better than
a lot of them.
I was better than 3/4 of them, so that you do realize
it has nothing to do with race.
It has nothing at all to do with race. There were good students and bad students, white as well as black. And I said before, if I were to show you my high school yearbook, in my graduating class, I was the only black who was a member of the National Honor Society. And they predicted, in the class, that I would be president of Tuskegee. Well, I did teach at Tuskegee.
One time, yeah.
They came pretty close. But again, I said before, I think the fact that you realize that they're just individuals, whether they're black or white, they're good and bad, But again, I said before, not to assume that if it's all black, it's necessarily